Hi, this is Tom Lane, DM2 Software's Vice President of Sales and Marketing. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Sage Alerts and Workflow for Petroleum Marketers Connection webinar. Before I introduce today's presenter, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Because of the number of attendees that we have on today's webinar, everyone's phones will stay on mute. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the questions window that you see in the lower right of your screen. We'll try to get to your questions at the end of the webinar. If we're unable to get to everyone's questions during the webinar, we'll follow up with you individually afterwards. Today's webinar is being recorded. As soon as the recording is available, we'll post it on our website and our YouTube channel, and then we'll also put a copy of today's presentation slides up on our website. And I'll send a message around probably tomorrow to let everybody know when those are available. On that note, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Lisa Thiele. She's a professional service consultant here at DM2, and she's one of our in-house experts on the Sage Alerts and Workflow application. And she's actually developed and created what we call event packs that are geared towards petroleum marketers, specifically how you guys operate your business. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa, and she's going to take you through this and show you what she's done.
Good afternoon, everybody. Here's our agenda for today. I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the product. I'm going to show you some of the sample DM2 alerts that I've created. I'm going to go over the Sage Alert capabilities, and then I'm going to give you sort of a high-level view of what you need to do in order to create a query that will, in turn, trigger an event. So, how often have you discovered after the fact that something is wrong, and sometimes way after the fact that something is wrong? Wouldn't you like to know when an AR or AP invoice for 1 month was updated to GL in another month? A customer is placed on credit hold, or they were taken off of credit hold. Customer's credit limit was changed, or maybe a customer stopped buying. You might have some missing tax setups that you don't know about, or the sale of an item resulted in a negative gross margin, and inventory has gone negative. There are probably a lot more that you could think of. But how are you going to know when these things happen? Do you have time to run reports and then comb through them to find the 1 or 2 things that are not right? If you don't have the time, wouldn't it be nice if the system told you when it happened? So, let's give the system a way to tell you when it finds something you need to know about. Sage Alerts can do all of this and more. Sage Alerts comes with some generic alerts, which we call event packs, that can be downloaded and used as a jumping off point or examples for your alerts. And we have created some alerts that are specific to the petroleum industry, and they can be provided to you at no cost. But because no one company does everything exactly like another company, they may need to be tweaked to fit your needs, which might necessitate a consulting project with a professional services consultant. Or it's possible that you can do it yourself. So what I'm going to do now is show you a sampling of some of the DM2 alerts that we can provide you. Accounting alerts, invoices out of period. AP and AR invoices are posted in the wrong period. It's easy for a user to use the wrong date at the end of the month. They will post last month's invoice in the new month, or vice versa. The end result is that sales or purchases are posted in the wrong month, and your subsidiary could be out of balance to GL as a result. These alerts are run periodically during the day. They compare the invoices month and year to the GL dates month and year. If they do not match, the alert is triggered letting you know it happened and who did it. Here are samples of alerts for AR or AP invoices posted out of period. The top one is an AR alert, and the bottom one is an AP alert. The standard for both is going to tell you the customer or vendor, the invoice number and date, the GL date, and the user. Here on my first example here, you can see that the invoice date is January and the GL date is February. This is a common error, especially with new clients or new users. You come in on the first and go into the sales order module to invoice, and you accept the module date that comes up, which by default is your PC system date. When you update your invoice batch, it will default to that module date, which would be the first. If you aren't paying attention and you don't change that date at the time of the update, which you can do, you will end up posting that January 31st invoice with a February 1st GL date. So the basic structure of most of the alerts that I create, there's usually a message, and then there's a table within the email address or the email, and that gives you the detail of what you're trying to be alerted on. Having the user as part of the alert gives you a training opportunity. You know who did it, so you can go back to that person and show them what they need to do to keep this from happening. And because this alert is typically set to run periodically during the day, you can catch it almost as soon as it happens. Credit management. Your credit department needs to know when new accounts are set up. Your tax department probably wants to know as well, so that exemptions can be verified. And maybe you want to notify the appropriate salesperson as well. One alert can be configured to send all new accounts to the credit and tax department. Another alert could be configured to sort by salesperson, doing a page break by salesperson, and sending each salesperson alerts for their new customers. This can be run at the end of the day. This top alert here is a sample of an alert that could go to your credit department and to your tax department. It's going to include all salesmen. This bottom alert is one that is going to a specific salesman. In this case, it's the house account. Both are giving essentially the same information. The first one, like I said, for the credit and tax departments, will have all new accounts. And the second is specifically for a specific salesperson. Both alerts can be run at the end of the day. Now, possibly, your credit department wants to know if a user has changed the terms code on an order. Your credit department has gone to all the trouble to decide what terms your customers should use, and they want to know if a user changes it on an order. This alert is run periodically during the day. It compares the terms on the order to the terms on the customer's account. If they do not match, it triggers the alert. Now, while the following sample doesn't show it, a later iteration of the alert reports the person who created the order and the person who updated the order, because we aren't really sure who might have changed it. This particular alert is for orders. It could also be done for invoices, but that would be more of an after-the-fact alert after the invoice has been updated. This alert will tell you the customer to ship to, the terms on the order, and the terms on the customer's account. Now, credit management may put a customer on a hard credit hold, checking that checkbox on the customer's main screen. They want to know when it has been checked and when it has been unchecked. This alert is run several times a day watching the status of that checkbox. When it changes from unchecked to checked, the Place on Hold alert will trigger. When it changes from checked to unchecked, the Taken Off Hold alert will trigger. In addition to letting the credit department know that the hard credit hold status has been changed, some additional information is given for someone's review. You can see that the customer's credit limit, account balance, and the aging bucket have also been included on the alert. So the top one is an example of the Placed on Hold alert, and the bottom one is Taken Off Hold alert. Operations alerts, negative gross margin. The system has tools to let you know if a margin is going to go negative, but not everyone uses them, and something just slips past your users. They're not paying attention to the gross margin or gross profit journal. So you want to know when a margin has gone negative. This alert is after the fact. The invoice has been posted. It runs several times a day, checking for negative margins on the invoice's line items. If it finds a negative margin, it will trigger the alert, listing the customer, the invoice number, the invoice date, the warehouse it was shipped from, and the item along with the quantity shipped. As I said, not everyone is diligent in reviewing their gross margin journals when updating an invoice batch. Here you can see the item sold, the warehouse it was sold from, along with the quantity shipped, the unit gross margin, as well as a gross margin extension. This gives you the opportunity to review your pricing setups and perhaps correct if necessary. Of course, some of these might fall under the category of it is what it is and you can ignore, but others may be wrong. Now this particular alert was created for a client who wanted to notify their salesperson how many gallons of fuel their customers purchased last week. Rather than use some of the other reporting tools we have, like Crystal, Sage Intelligence, Excel, SQL Data Warehouse, this client opted for an alert because they wanted it in an email format that would be more easily viewed on their smartphone. We could have done a Crystal report. It would send a PDF to them, but it was easier for them to read the data in an email. This alert is run once a week on Wednesday. It totals the number of gallons sold from Monday of the last week through Sunday of this week. It also reports the last invoice date for the customer, along with the total gross margin and an average unit margin. And it sorts the data by the quantity sold in descending order. So you can see the customer. Here's the date last invoiced, quantity sold, total gross margin, and unit gross margin. Sales order notification. A customer or salesperson may want to receive a notification that an order has been placed. Outbox doesn't do it, and any other process requires that a user do something. This alert runs at the end of the day, and this particular version of the alert is watching for new orders for a particular customer. It is triggered when it sees a new order, and it sends it to the salesperson. It wouldn't be hard at all to have this triggered for multiple customers or salespersons. So you've got some customers that absolutely positively insist on getting a copy of the order at the time the order is placed. Thought that I had to accomplish that would be to add a custom office field to flag when a customer or a salesperson is to be notified. And then use that field as part of your query. So only those customers that you say that you need to email an order notification to would get it. Not everybody, just those that you designate. So this particular customer, the salesperson needed to know, or the customer needed to know, that they had placed an order of jet fuel. And the salesperson got a copy of it as well. Now this particular one is alerting on credit balance. It was created to notify salespeople that customers for a particular warehouse have a credit balance on their account. The customers are prepaying for purchases to be made in the future, and the salesperson wants to know when the funds are running low. This alert can be set more generally to notify your credit department when there are large credit balances. If you accept prepayments from folks, you might want to be able to notify them when that prepayment amount gets low enough that they might want to replenish the funds or to prepare to make payment on further purchases. An alert can be sent out to the customer. This particular one, like I said, is going to the salesperson. So this top customer is getting low. This customer here has got lots of funds left for his purchases. How many times have you wondered when a customer stops buying? This particular alert was created to let management and salespeople know when a customer hadn't purchased anything in the last 30 days. It also reports the last invoice date that they had, and it's run once a month. Notice how this alert has multiple records for a particular salesman, and it's sorted by salesman. So we have 3 records for Bill and 3 for Bonnie. This same alert could be used to do a page break by salesperson and have each salesman get a list of their customers that are not purchasing. So the same version of this email, Bill would get a copy of his 3 customers and Bonnie would get a copy of her 3 customers, telling them who had quit buying and when their last invoice date was. You can see that this particular alert was run in August of last year, and you can see that this top customer, last time they were invoiced was in June. The second customer was in May, July, and August, and all the way back to May again. All right, now I'll talk about a little bit of the capabilities of Sage Alert. With the appropriate license, multiple databases can be monitored. Any database that can be accessed through an ODBC connection can be monitored. We've been attempting to do a connection to the Cypress paperless office. And while Crystal does it and Excel does it, we're having some problems getting it to talk, Sage Alerts to talk to it. So we've got to do some more testing with that. But that's the only one that I know of that we've had problems with. So you could be monitoring your payroll system, your asset system, anything that's accessed. You can monitor multiple mass companies. It takes a special license. It's no extra cost. It just needs to be formatted a certain way. Sage Alerts monitors for conditions that are important to you. When a particular condition occurs, it will notify the people that need to know. You determine the condition to track and set up a query that will look for and report that condition. You determine when and how often the query should be run to check for the condition. You decide who needs to know and how you will inform them that the condition has occurred. The alert can report the condition one time, or it can nag you until the condition is corrected. Think of knowing that you only need to know one time that a line item on an invoice had a negative gross margin. But you want it to nag you about a negative inventory condition until that condition is corrected. The alert can email, fax, instant message, text, Twitter, or FTP the alert to your recipient. With the appropriate license, reports can be created and emailed to particular recipients at specific times. And in addition, we now have the ability to have Sage Alerts initiate a Sage Intelligence report. Sage Intelligence does some wonderful things with reporting, not just financial, but all different kinds of reporting throughout the system. And think what it would mean to have Sage Alerts trigger a Sage Intelligence report that would be attached to an email and sent to whoever you require it to be sent to. Screen gives a small sample, again, of some of the data that can be used for alerts. Financial data would be coming from the math system. HR data would be coming from your payroll system. And sales data could be coming from CRM. You are only limited by your imagination. Now, I would like to give you a high-level view of what it takes to create a query and an event or alert. For every alert, you need to know certain things. The purpose of the alert. For our example today, we're going to create an alert and a query to notify operations that an item billed had a negative gross margin. The message you want for your alert. This determines what data. You also, once you determine what data you need, that tells you, will help you to determine what tables contain that data. In this case, we're going to use the AR invoice history detail, the AR invoice history header, and the inventory warehouse. The data also will tell you what fields do you need from the table. We're going to be using customer account number, name, ship to, item number and description, quantity, price, cost, gross margin by unit, and the extension, and there's some more data out there as well. What is going to be the trigger for our alert? In this particular instance, when the cost of an item is greater than the price. And who do we want to get that alert? Operations and management personnel. So, after determining what you want to do, in this case, send out an alert for the negative gross margin, you determine what information you need to use to construct the alert or to determine who gets the alert. This will help you to decide, as I said, which tables to use. A word of caution here. Sage Alerts comes with some predetermined alerts, one of which is for negative gross margin. However, when I tried to use it the first time, I found that it was using the open invoice table, which doesn't have item level detail to it. And it was looking at the total gross margin on the invoice. And as we all know, it's entirely possible to have one item with a negative gross margin and still have a positive gross margin on the invoice. Besides, knowing that the total gross margin is negative doesn't really help us dig down to the root cause. And because the open invoice table doesn't have the item level information that we need, it seemed kind of silly that the Sage Alerts folks even set that up. So just as with Crystal report writing and other ways of getting information out of the system, you have to know where it's stored and which of the possible multiple tables is best to use. Well, the next step, once we select our table, you have to link them. Just like Crystal, once you have your tables chosen, you have to link them. You need to determine your primary table, the table that holds the detail information you need, And then you need to link it to your secondary table so that you can get the additional information. So for example, we know we're going to get the invoice number out of the detail. We're going to get the item information out of the detail, but the customer information is on the header. And if we want to provide the alert with a warehouse description, we've got to get that information from the warehouse table. So our primary table here is our detail, and we're going to link that table to the header table using the invoice number. A second link is linking the detail to the warehouse table and using the warehouse code that is present on the line and, of course, in the warehouse table itself. That's what we use to link. Now, this is where knowing your data becomes important. Because there can be more than one invoice in the system with the same invoice number, you have to add a secondary link on the invoice number for the header sequence field. I could have invoice number 123 on my account, and Fred Brown could have invoice number 123 on his account, but they're both going to have a different sequence number. So the original sequence, or the original link is the table to the invoice number in the header table, and we are taking the header sequence number from the detail table and linking it to the header sequence number in the Invoices header table. And this is what the completed links look like. Now we need to choose the data fields that you want. And this one has probably got more than what we actually need. But a lot of times I will choose more fields that I need to sort of create a generic type query, because I can copy that query, rename it, tweak it, and then have a new query to use for a different event. It uses some of the same information, but maybe what is required for sorting or filtering is different, but I don't have to go through the hassle of linking the table and choosing the items all over again. Once you've chosen your data fields, then you need to decide how you want to sort it. In this example, I'm sorting by date and then by invoice number combined with the header sequence. And you can sort ascending or descending, whichever is appropriate for the query that you want. Notice that the second one is sort of a calculation. It's a concatenation of the invoice number and the header sequence number. It's not just a single field, but it's a concatenated field. Next, you may need to filter. For this particular query, we're telling the system we want to look only at invoice items, item type 1. There's other item types out there for miscellaneous charges and things like that, but we just want to look at inventory items. We only want those items where the price minus the cost is less than 0. And if I happen to need to do some, we might end up with an invoice that has quantity shifts of 0 on it for whatever reason. I had that, so I had to put a filter that I did to see any item that had a quantity 0. We don't care. I also didn't want it to report omitted items. And because, as I said earlier, that everybody does things just a little differently, and the data is a little bit differently, I had to limit this query to say that that's the 9,000, and it's not equal to 7,400. Anything greater than 9 miscellaneous stuff that they reported on, and I don't remember exactly now what 7400 was, but they didn't want it reported. I think it was freight. And then this, we didn't want it on this particular customer, which I believe was an internal customer. So this is what I was talking about at the very beginning when I said that we can provide you with the basic alert, but it may still need to be tweaked a bit to meet your specific situation. Now you can also see a filter up here called more than to pulling data. The first to determine what data is to pull particular. Now behind the scenes,
Did we lose you, Lisa? Oh, Lisa, did we lose your audio? I don't hear you anymore.
can you hear me? Tom, can you let me know whether you can hear me or not? My call dropped just a second ago.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Tom?
There we go. We lost you for a little bit. I had the audio.
Yeah, the Verizon, my call dropped. Sorry. That's what you get
no
for living in the wilds of Texas.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Sorry for the brief outage there on the audio. All right, Lisa, thank you. You still there? It sounds like the line went dead again.
No, I'm here. Hold on. I'm just trying to get back to.
Thank you.
Back to. Okay. What I was saying before Verizon decided.
Oh, I'm cut out on us again. We'll try and, I'm sorry, folks, we'll try and give her a minute.
I'm back. For some reason, Verizon is dropping my call, so I switched to my landline.
All right, perfect. All right, great.
Sorry. Okay, third time's the charm. Behind the scenes, Sage Alerts on the query. Everything we have done up to now has gone into the SQL, to this SQL statement that you see here. You can, if you are proficient in SQL, modify that statement. One caveat though, once you check that checkbox there in the bottom of the screen, you have to leave it unchecked if you make any modifications. If you check it, modify the SQL statement, and then uncheck it, it will revert back to creating the statement from your entry screen. Okay, you definitely want to look at your Preview tab as it displays the data your query setups will pull from the database. You may get an error message, which means that you have a problem with your query. Sometimes with complicated queries, you may need to build them in steps, checking the preview screen as you go. At this point, our query is complete, and we are ready to create the event or alert that will use the data that the query provides. So the next step is to create our event or alert. This first screen is where we tell the system whether or not an event is active, whether or not you want to the alert to nag you about a condition, this repeat notification checkbox here, like your negative inventory condition. Then you tell it which queries that you need for this particular alert. You can run up to 99 queries, one after the other, on a single alert. They can be linked or not, depending on your needs for the alert. As you can see from looking at this screen, with the proper licenses, here are the tab. We can send a crystal report when the alert is triggered, maybe a listing of the price quotes sent out to your salesman that day. You can send files. Think of sending out an MSDS sheet. The alert can fax, email, page, instant message, or send something to a web page. And under this Actions tab here, you have the options of creating a file, submitting a SQL statement, running a program or a basic script, or you can send out a tweet. Once you determine how you're going to deliver your alert, then you need to tell it who you're going to send it to. That is your subscribers. You can set up subscribers by creating a group like operations, management, credit, etc., and then add your users. You can add the group as a subscriber, and everyone in the group will get the alert. Or you can pick and choose which user in the group should get the alert. With the Advanced Subscriber tab, you can break up an alert so that the same alert sends to multiple people with only the information they require. Up here in the top section, we can say that this particular database field will determine how we want to break our message. So remember those samples that I showed you that had things sorted by salesman. Our salesman code would end up being our message break field here, and we would go ahead and send out the email based on that break. And then in the bottom section here, we would tell it that we would get the email address for the salesperson from the salesperson setup email address field. So instead of setting up a subscriber, you can use the data within the MAS system itself to pull the email address, pager, fax number that is set up in the database. So instead of setting up all the salesmen as subscribers and Sage alerts and having a separate alert for each salesperson, you can do it with one alert, telling it to do a message break and get the email address from the salesman's record. The final piece to the puzzle is when do we want it to run? And this is the tab that will determine it. This particular example is set to run every weekday morning at 9 a.m. every month of the year. And you notice that there is even a checkbox as to whether it should run on a holiday or not. because we told it not to repeat the alerts, it will report any negative gross margin condition just one time. Behind the scenes, the Sage Alerts database is recording the fact that we had an alert trigger for a specific record, and it will not send it again. If this were to be our negative inventory alert, it would not keep track of the fact that we reported out of warehouse 1 that this particular product had a negative inventory, and it would continue to nag you about it until you corrected the condition. All right, this concludes the demonstration portion, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that anyone might have.
All right, Lisa, before we do that, can you advance to the next slide, and then we'll open it up for the Q&A?
Sure.
All right, we wanted to take this opportunity. Normally, for those of you who are regular webinar attendees, you'd know that we normally promote next month's webinar. We're actually going to take the next several months off doing webinars because we're going to be preparing for our user conference. So I wanted to take this opportunity to throw out the save the date reminder. For those of you who may have attended the Road Ahead webinar that we did late last year, Chris Lamagna, our Vice President of Technology, committed that we are definitely going to have a user conference in 2016. We've slotted the dates with the Heathman Lodge, and that's going to be the 18th through the 20th. We're looking at 2.5 days. We're working on the agenda right now. We just recently had all of our employees together for training on our latest platform, and we had a lively discussion and got ideas and everything ready for the conference. So we're working on that, and we intend to open our early bird registration around March 15th. So we'll certainly make you aware of that and keep you posted on that. Now we can open it up for Q&A if you want to advance to the next slide, Lisa. We've got a couple of questions that have come in now. First one's from Angie over at Downs. She's asking if Alerts also works with CardLink, and what she's looking for specifically is if a customer stops purchasing, can you trigger an alert for that?
If they stop purchasing altogether, yes. Basically, I think I would tell the system, typically we number our card lock invoices starting with the letter C. I would look for the last letter C card lock invoice that was there, say that it was, I only wanted to know about those that had an invoice date of earlier than January 1st, 2016, and if they did not have an invoice after January 1st, 2016, it would let us know. So yes, we could do that.
Okay, great. Next question is from Christy over at James River. She's asking if Sage Alerts and Workflow, she actually is referring to it as Knowledge Sync, but same product, is if that will work with other programs, and she's got, for example, Access.
Yes. Anything that you have an ODBC connection to, we could use an Access database to pull out information for an alert. Without knowing exactly what she was trying to do, that's about as good an answer as I can get.
Right, and just to answer on the sales side, there is a connector involved whenever you're working with additional databases. So you'd have to check to see how many connectors you actually are licensed for, and in the event you wanted to do something with another database, you may actually have to purchase another connector. I know there is a version of it that gives you unlimited connections. So if anyone's, excuse me, if anyone's interested in that, they could certainly follow up with us in sales. Next question is from Erin over at Dennis K. Burke, and Erin is asking how she gets the event pack.
Just email me, Erin. I'd want to go over it a little bit, make sure that I've got the latest and greatest in it for the DM2 things. I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes where you can download the Sage Alerts event packs. But for the DM2 ones, you just need to email me.
And that not only goes for Erin, but of course anybody. And when I send out the recording and information on that, I'll also include Lisa's contact information, so you can follow up with her easily on that. All right, it looks like our questions have wound down for the moment. I know how it is. It's a lot of information. Lisa, if you want to go and show them where they can find additional information, I'm sure people are going to have questions afterwards. So if they start there, of course, if you have questions above and beyond what you can find online here, you can certainly contact us.
So what you're seeing on my screen now is the alerts and workflow.com documentation page. And just Google Sage Alerts and you'll be able to find it. When you go to the documentation page, of course they've got where you can get the workflow manual, you've got your frequently asked questions, and then they have got absolutely the most wonderful videos that I have ever seen anywhere on training. Now notice that when I clicked on that, it went from being branded as Sage Alerts to Knowledge Sync. Don't get too excited about that. Sage Alerts is the same thing as Knowledge Sync, and Knowledge Sync is the same thing as Sage Alerts. So here is where these training videos are, and it starts from step one and goes all the way through to the end. These are absolutely the best training videos that I have ever watched. I refer back to them a lot. Matter of fact, I've even started keeping a kind of a listing that here at minute 3 they're talking about how to do this, because I have to refer back to it every time I do it because it doesn't stick in my brain. So I would, if you are already a user of Sage Alerts and you didn't know about these, you need to run and go watch these. These, again, I can't emphasize enough how good they are. Now, as far as getting the event packs, you can go to the download page, fill out all the information, and let's see, let me do that right quick.
And these are the standard Sage 100 event packs that Lisa's referring to here.
That's good enough. Tell it that we want the event pack. You need to choose the Sage 100 ERP. Of course, just like always with the fields that are asterisks, you've got to have that in. Then when you click the download, it comes up with a big list of all the different event packs that they've got. So you just need to look for what you want. So Sage 100. If you're the normal Sage 100, you're going to want the ERP Provide X. If you are using the Sage 100 Premium, you're going to want the sequel. If you need some things that integrate with CRM, you would want this event pack. Here's a trend analysis for Sage 100. if you're a user of the Sage Abra, their HR product, then you could download an event pack for it. There's just a lot of stuff here to choose from. And you click it and download it, and then you go off and load it into your system. If you need any help with that, just let me know. But again, referring to the manual, their manuals are great as well, and they can walk you through it step by step if you've not done it before.
All right, Lisa, thank you. And I will certainly include a link to all this information as well with the follow-up of the recording to today's webinar. All right, it looks like that's all the questions we've got for now. So I just want to remind everybody that today's webinar has been recorded. Once the recording is available, I'll go ahead and post it on our website and our YouTube channel and send that out. We'll also put a copy of the presentation slides that Lisa used today up on our website as well. There'll be links to all that in the follow-up message. And again, if you can think of any other questions afterwards, you should be able to find most of the answers with the information that Lisa just showed you. But of course, you can certainly contact us directly and ask for help. And to do that, you can contact us at sales@dm2.com. Thank you, Lisa, for doing a very nice job of giving an overview on what we've done specifically for the petroleum industry with Sage Alerts and Workflow. Appreciate it. And I wanted to thank everybody for attending today's Sage Workflow and Alerts webinar for petroleum marketers. Thank you very much. That